The smell of the cedar smoke was a blessed smell. It meant the bugs and the mosquitoes would be a little less. And it had been hard fought for. Those first few days in post-apocalyptic America were a little wet. Luckily, he wasn't quite to the point of no comforts or things that could help him. At least had tarps and a tent when he was able to bug out. As much as he had dreamed of the days of spending time in camp, living in the wild, being truly free, like his forefathers, these mountains, these woods, they were still a little scary. Those nights without fire, he reconnected with his ancient man. He understood why they were afraid of the dark. He'd already seen Brother Bear, been growled at by something else. The chiggers alone were enough to terrify any human from being out here. But here he was. He'd hoped his family would join him. They chose to trust in the system. So alone in the wild, he prepares for the future. The camp is coming together, but he's fallen enough times to learn a few lessons. Just like the fire, it takes time, and it's worth taking your time to do it right, even though it seems like you need to be in a hurry. One of the lessons he thought he'd learned, the world he was trying to leave behind had left him in a hurry, microwaving everything, expecting an answer and a solution today, never willing to just sit back, take your time, do the job right. So now I take the canvas hammock down, he rebuilds his hammock, but he's pleased with his spot. The ground is soft and covered in moss. His temporary camp will be cool for the summer as he figures out how to build a more permanent solution than a tent and a tarp and a canvas. He's building a bow. Bending a sapling between two trees. He didn't bring any weapons with him, but he still has more than Jesus had. Jesus had no bed, foxes and dens, all that stuff. Well, he had a canvas hammock and a chair, tents and pillows. And if he got scared, he could always escape and go back to the world. But the coronavirus was spreading and was getting worse. And the communists were attacking and it was getting worse. People like him were who they came for. Now, if he would die as a free man on his land, living like his forefathers, the people who came and pioneered and made this nation great. He stood here today a cyborg, battery operated and batteries running out. But when they went, they would go here. At a beautiful place. The wind, the clouds, the chiggers, the mosquitoes. And unlike Paul, or Jesus, or Moses, or many others, he'll get to live in an abundant land full of milk and honey, as he disappears into the wilderness. He drove his truck up to the top of the mountain, looking out to see if there were any signs of life. So far, there had been few sounds since he decided to flee civilization. He didn't know how often he'd be able to come to the top of the mountain, how many more trips he could take with the little bit of gas that he had. He knew he'd have to make some runs into town if he made it long enough. This was life now. Life was beautiful. He had come to watch a sunset, perhaps his last. It was a frivolous waste of gas, he knew, but he really wanted to enjoy at least one beautiful sunset from up here. Even though the unfortunate cost of the very gas that he needed to get up there, the pipelines that built the roads, gave him access to this mountaintop in the first place. But everything comes with a cost. Well, as he sat there, he realized that the waste of gas would always be worth it, because as long as he could make the memory last, he could hold that picture in his head. God hadn't seen fit to paint the sky as colorful as maybe he'd hoped, but he sure did paint him a beautiful valley. He watches for a while, taking it all in before he has to head back down the hill. He wants to get back to camp before dark. Will he make it through tonight? What will tomorrow bring? He takes one final look around, says another thank you to his Almighty, and then begins to head back down the mountain. He sat around the fire. His misadventure of seeing the sunset got him lost in the mountains, and he drove around, wasting more precious gas. He was finally able to find his way back to camp, only to find the fire that he'd tended so diligently all day long had gone out. I meant another match. That meant another day when it was cold, or when he desperately needed it. It would be a match he wouldn't have, and gas he wouldn't have. He chided himself for the mistake. He knew it was foolish, but the sunset was so beautiful, and the view so breathtaking. Now he sat around the fire in the humid, dark, scary surroundings, knowing just how vast the forests around him truly are, knowing that nearby are every predator that has ever terrified man in these forests throughout all of history. His connection with ancient man, his primitive ancestor, the things that have come through since the beginning of history, the importance of the fire, having to take care of it, and to tend it, having to love it, having to take your time with it, learning how to slow down, how to be patient. He thinks about back in the world and how he could just film all this, and he could have had a wonderful story that he could post on the internet and use it to sell coaching and training for other people to develop their life plan, to hold them accountable for doing something different. That's all he ever wanted to do, besides fulfill his mission to help change the world. That was all he was supposed to do, was come back, build the business, and coach people, create the University of Freedom, build space choppers, be able to time travel. Now here he was, no business, no university, no space choppers, no time travel, no saving the future from its past. Instead, he just sits here, connected even further in history to mankind's primitive beginning, and the loop is made whole again.